Hello everyone. We'll continue the chapter Human Nervous System. In our earlier videos, we studied about central nervous system. Central nervous system that consists the parts which are present right at the center of the nervous system, that includes brain and spinal cord. Today we'll be studying about peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system mostly includes nerves. Okay. In this nerves we'll be talking about two types of nerves. First is cranial nerves. Cranial means cranium, that is related to cranium or skull. Cranial nerves that arises from the brain, and they are 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Arises from the brain and directly go to the sensory part of the body. So they directly receives message, brain directly receive message from the sensory part of the body, and they directly send the impulse to the brain. Now, the next type of nerve is spinal nerves. Spinal nerves that arises from the spinal cord. Means if the stimuli is received by the sensory structure in the hand, that will be first transmitted to spinal cord, and then from the spinal cord it is sent to the brain. So spinal nerves, they arises from the spinal cord, and there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves. So done, there are two types of nerves. Cranial nerves arising from the brain. Spinal nerves arises from the spinal cord, and then the impulse is sent to the brain. On the basis of response, peripheral nervous system, it controls in two ways. First is somatic nervous system. Somatic nervous system means what? It controls a voluntary response of the body. Voluntary response means what? That is, they control the response which happens according to our will. So that is the meaning of voluntary response. Mostly they include the activities of muscles. Okay. And the next was autonomous nervous system. Autonomous, from the word autonomous we can find automatic. It has been derived from the word automatic. Automatic means uh, the things which are done without our will. Okay, so the activities which our body take do, that is without our will. So those type of nervous system is known as autonomous nervous system, that controls involuntary response. Autonomous nervous system are again divided into two types: sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system, that mostly involves activities like when it mostly activates the body or excites the body. So those type of activities comes under sympathetic nervous system or controlled by sympathetic nervous system. So mostly the response can be named as fight or flight response. Parasympathetic nervous system, that mostly include rest and digest response, means that mostly control the activities or which lower the excited level of the part or of the activity. So the example, best example, what we can see, that when our eyes are exposed to ample of light, the pupil which is present starts dilating, means it increases. So that is an example of sympathetic nervous system, means the pupil gets excited and starts dilating. Parasympathetic nervous system, when the light is removed from the eye, then the pupil again returns back to its original shape, means it starts resting. The ciliary muscle starts resting. So this case we can call this activity as parasympathetic activity controlled by parasympathetic nervous system. So there are many examples which we can see which are controlled by sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. These all activities, these are involuntary, like expansion of lungs during during inhalation. So when we inhale, there is an expansion of lungs. So expansion of lungs, that comes under excited mode. So that is controlled by sympathetic nervous system, and when we exhale, at that time our lungs comes back to its original shape. So at that time parasympathetic nervous system acts. So in simple way we can say that sympathetic nervous system excites our parts or our activity, parasympathetic nervous system that brings those parts to its rest position. So we understood that peripheral nervous system, that is control, on the basis of its control, it is divided into two parts, that is somatic nervous system and autonomous nervous system. Now we'll be talking about reflexes. Reflexes, first of all, after listening the word reflex, the first thing comes to our mind, that is involuntary response of our body. Involuntary response, the response which are not according to our will. So involuntary response to our body to a stimuli, and this is, the action is very fast and sudden. There is a sudden and fast action that is taken to protect our body from certain situation. So in this thing, what we can see, that we can take one example, like if our hand goes to certain flame, or if we place our finger on a flame, we suddenly withdraw our hand. So the impulse is sent to the spinal cord, and then the response is decided by the spinal cord and then is given to the muscles, and the muscles of the hand responds to withdraw the hand from the flame. So here what we can see, that the reflexes that are mostly controlled by, reflex actions are mostly controlled by spinal cord. There is no involvement of brain. Now we'll be talking about reflex arc. Reflex arc is a path through which the impulse moves. Now, if we have put our hand, or if we have touched a hot iron, what happens? Suddenly we withdraw the hand. So when we touch the hot iron, an impulse is sent by the help of sensory neuron to the spinal cord. In the spinal cord, interneuron exchange the impulse, and suddenly they send the impulse by the help of motor neuron to the effector muscles, and then the spinal cord says us to withdraw the hand immediately. So you can see that there is a sudden action because of which we save ourselves or our body parts. So the path through which the impulse moves from the receptor to the effector, so that path is known as reflex arc. So this was the end of the chapter.